Okay, so this is from the 13.1 Delta Math assignment, confidence interval from a sample mean simulation. First off, before I go through the question, I just wanted to point out that this one has a watch help video with it. So anytime you get stuck on them, if they have a watch help video, which not all of them do, you can click on that and they will walk you through how to do one of the problems. Okay, so coming back to the question, we have a standardized test score with all 575 students at a high school as shown below. Hide and shuffle all values. Take a random sample of 48 values from the population. Based on that sample, find the mean and sample standard deviation using the statistics calculator. Using those values, create a 95% confidence interval for the true mean of the population, rounding to the nearest tenth. Okay, so this right here is all of the data values of the 575 students. Now, normally we don't have all the data values. That's why it's saying do a sample. So if I just hid these, okay, so now I don't know what the data values are. It says I want a sample of 48 people. So I go and I sample 48. So I just kind of randomly click around until I have 48 of these. And I'm not bothering to count how many I clicked because it's keeping a tally up here, and once I hit 48 it should tell me. Okay, so now I have 48 of them. Find the average and round to the nearest whole number. Okay, so if I wanted the average, it's nice that it already told me that all of these numbers I clicked, they all add up to 3,066, and I had 48 people I got the data from. So my average, I'm just going to go 3066 and divide it by 48. I mean, you can go and individually go 71 plus 75 plus 69 plus 65 and so on, but it already told us what that should be. Okay, so my average or my mean is 63.875, and I'm just going to write that here. Okay, now it wants me to come up with the confidence interval for the 95th percentile. So in order to come up with that, what I need to do is I'm going to have to find my margin of error. So for the 95th percent confidence, I'll take my average or my mean, and you add and subtract your margin of error. So to get the margin of error for the 95th confidence interval, it's 2 times your standard deviation divided by the square root of your total number of items in your sample. So far that's going to be 2 times, I don't know my standard deviation, but the number of items in my sample, I think it was 48. Yeah, I had 48 in my sample. So now to get my standard deviation, I am going to use the calculator that they provided down here. So I'm going to copy the values, and then once it's copied, I'm going to open in the statistics calculator and then paste my values in. So these are all of the numbers that were in my circles. And by the way, I could have grabbed a graphing calculator, hit Stat, Edit, and then I could have manually typed all those numbers into this list, which would have taken a while. So it's better just to use their calculator. And then after I had all the numbers in the list, then I would have hit stat, arrow over to calculate, then one variable stat, and then mine won't tell me anything because I have nothing in it, but then you'd go down to calculate and it would give you the same data that this one's going to give me in just a second once I do it. So once I have all the data, I'm going to go to calculate menu, and then I want one variable stat just like I would on my calculator. It's coming from list 1, and then I calculate it. And this is the same thing my graphing calculator would have given me if I had typed all the data in under stat. Okay, this SX is your sample standard deviation. So 6.5155. Okay, so 6.155. And even though it says to round to the nearest, I think it said tenth, I'm going to keep more decimals right now. 515529, okay. Because it's my final answer, I want accurate, the correct accuracy. And I think I wrote that number down. It should be 0.5155. Okay, so now to get my margin of error, I'm just going to grab my calculator and go 2 times 6.5155, divide that by the square root of 48. Now to get my confidence interval, I'm going to go back to here, the confidence interval for the 95th percent confidence interval. I take my mean, which was the 663.875, and then I'm going to add my margin of error, and then I'm going to take my mean and subtract my margin of error. So you have to both add and subtract it. So then I end up with 65 point, now I'm going to round that to 8, and then I'll again take my mean and subtract my my margin of error, and get 61.99, which would round to 62.0. And now that right there should be my confidence interval. Okay, so let's see here. Make sure it did want it rounded to the nearest tenth. Yep, round to the nearest tenth. So 62.0. And I don't remember what the other one was. 65.8. Okay, and then I have it.